Kia ora and welcome to the special roundtable discussion in honour of International Women's Day. I'm your host, Eteroa Lafaele, Developer Evangelist at Xero. Today we have a panel of our wahine toa, strong women here today to talk about all things about us women, especially with where we are in this industry, but also some key pointers that we want to give to all of our listeners today. Well, before we get started, I think it's important that our viewers here today get to know a little bit more about ourselves. So we're going to go around the table and you're going to introduce yourself. So we'll start with you, Grace.
Hi, I'm Grace Benedek Rooney. I am the Developer Evangelism Manager at Xero.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Vickie King. I'm the General Manager of Developer Relations at Xero, which means I'm lucky enough to work directly with Ete and Grace every day.
Kia ora, I'm Amy Keremete and I'm a Product Manager at Xero.
Well, welcome, sisters. It's so good to have you all today on this round table. So we'll start off with our first questions because, first questions are amazing. So we're going to start by asking you again around the table for you just to share a little bit about your journey as a woman in tech. But while you go through your journey, let us know about the nitty-gritty, the challenges, because, it's always cool to hear about your journey, but we also want to know, the beautiful things, but also the real things, because I think that's the key thing that we want to hear from you. So we'll start off with Grace and we'll go around the table.
Cool. Thanks, Eti. So my journey actually started really early going into tech. I was doing a hard materials project when I was about 13, and there was an electronics component to that, and I had to do a bit of programming. And I felt really inspired by it, and I really pursued that throughout the following years at school, and I chased computer science wherever I could. And it was really fun. I enjoyed the kind of creative aspect to it. I think the major challenge at that age was actually that I was the only girl in the room in all of my computer science classes, and that was definitely a challenge at time for me. Yeah.
Feels.
Yeah, well, I didn't really consider a career in technology when I was growing up. It wasn't actually until I worked at Global Women as the program manager for their Breakthrough Leaders program, and I had the opportunity to travel to San Francisco and to Silicon Valley. Being around so many incredible women anyway was super inspiring because, they told me to go for what I want and, put myself out there and put myself out of my comfort zone. So just being surrounded by them was really incredible. But during that time in San Francisco, I got to learn from different tech leaders, and I actually found out there's so many more roles to being part of technology than just say engineering. So that really opened my eyes. When I got home, it was quite challenging. I didn't know really where to start. But the first step I took was to really look at all of my skills and which ones were transferable into tech, and also looking at the different tech companies within New Zealand and trying to find one that actually aligned with my values as well. So after that, I found a role at Xero and just decided to really put myself out there and just apply for the role. So that's how I started my journey in tech.
Love it.
Yeah, my journey wasn't quite as deliberate as Grace's and Amy's was. I didn't necessarily make a deliberate decision to move into tech. I just kind of fell into it. My study had been in film and television, and when I started working at a telco, I just kind of fell into the role. It happened. It was a 250-person telco. And to be honest, I thought they were going to go bust within about 6 months. So I thought I was going to be looking for another job really soon. But I ended up being there for 6.5 years, and it was a great start to my career. Since then, I've worked in tiny startups and big corporates, in incubators and state-owned enterprises and everything in between. It hasn't always been easy. I think to Amy's point, finding an organization that aligns to your values has been really important. I worked for a few organizations that my values weren't aligned to their values at all, and that clash created a real, conflict of ethics sometimes. So definitely key to find that. So it's been tough at times, but it's been magic at other times. A career in tech has been great to challenge and develop me. It's paid my bills. It's bought my house. It has taken me all over the world, and also it's put me in touch with some pretty amazing human beings. So I'm amazingly grateful for it.
Oh, I love that. Yes. Maybe for the sisters. Yes. I think just adding, like, just listening to all of you, I think we'll kind of dig deep into the challenges part. And I think it's kind of cool because, you know, not many people really talk about the challenges, but with this, I would love to also hear, you know, in the challenges, like, for example, what ways do you think gender stereotypes continue to affect women's lives? And with that, what can be done to break them down? So with those challenges, and especially those two questions, kind of your thoughts on that.
I'm happy to take this one.
Go for gold, sis. Go for gold.
I think the stereotypes around that women deserve less pay and that they should be paid less or they deserve it, they persist. So that pay inequity problem persists. When we see in New Zealand, the stats are that from mid-November until the end of the year, every year women work for free based on the pay gap. And for Pacifica women, it's even worse. So from the 1st of October until the 31st of December, they essentially work for free each year.
Yeah.
So those issues are really big and we need to tackle those. There are organisations like mindthegap.nz where organisations voluntarily report their pay gaps. Xero is one of those organisations. I think that goes a long way to providing transparency and encouraging businesses to do the right thing in this area.
I would add there, you know, the challenge that I experienced growing up was often that I was the only girl in the room, and that was really challenging because there were some people who didn't necessarily think I should be in there, whether I was in you know, high school or sometimes at university, and I think one of the things that's really important is just continuing to educate people from that young age to support their like growth and learning, to kind of have that growth mindset from an early age and see all the opportunities that are in front of them and how those that are invited into the space actually contribute to the growth and learning and development of the world around us. I think that's something that has really stuck out through to me in my experience for sure.
Love it. Bless. The theme for this year's International Women's Day is Embrace Equity. What does this theme mean to you personally, and how do you think women can challenge gender biases and stereotypes in their daily lives?
I think for me, understanding the difference between equality and equity. Equality is about people having the same opportunities and equal opportunities, and equity is about realising that not everybody starts from the same place in terms of those opportunities. And also to have diverse people within tech, that's not enough. We need to make sure that those environments and places that people are coming into are psychologically safe and they are inclusive. So, you know, once people get into tech, they can really thrive. So that's what it's about for me.
I'm going to be a bit controversial, actually, and say that I don't really like the theme or the imagery from this year's theme. I think embrace equity, the word embrace sounds a bit weak. I think we've got to the point now where it should be demand. I don't think anybody got anywhere, particularly in the area of equality, equity, feminism, anti-discrimination, anything like that, from asking nicely. I think it should be demanded, and that's how women have always made gains through getting the vote, has been through protesting, and other milestones in the journey of women in society has always been through demanding. And I think that's what we should be doing. So I'm going to disagree with International Women's Day theme. Sorry.
Hard.
I think it's a good thing to reflect on, though, right? Like, we're reflecting on what those words do mean. And I think for me, the philosophy I've always followed is that if you have the ability to take action, you should. And when I was thinking about what those words mean, and I was reading about International Women's Day, I was reading about the UN's theme, which is digital, and that's talking about the ways that technology and the access to technology affects those around us and the opportunities that they have. I think technology has this really interesting effect where it breaks down a lot of the barriers which women face in the world. It gives them the opportunity to access education, to further their own lives, to learn about what their rights are and where they are in the world and the things that they really should know but maybe don't. And in a way where they can still do that perhaps in their own communities where it previously wouldn't have been accessible. So I think that's kind of what I reflected on, and thinking about how technology has really improved the access for many people, including women, in terms of what they can access and what they can do in terms of the opportunities they can access and how they live and breathe and walk in the world around us. Yeah.
Now let's turn into a more positive note. What opportunities do you see for women in the future? How can we continue to make progress and create more equitable and inclusive society?
So I'll start in with some thoughts. I think there's top-down and bottom-up approaches to this.
Yeah.
So top-down in business, having more women in governance is really important. A board of directors sets the tone of the company. They ensure that the right policies are in place and they help to drive inclusive and healthy cultures. So I think that's extremely important in the world of business. Thinking about community and bottom-up. Community grassroots organisations like Fibre Whare, which Ete is part of, helping Pacifica peoples, including women, into technology is super important. So that community support and frankly representation matters. People seeing themselves in the community and doing the things that they want to be doing. So I think both of those are two elements that I think are really important.
Cool. Love it. Yes.
Yeah, I think I touched on it earlier as well, but just making sure that within our organisations we are doing everything that we can to make sure that it is inclusive and everyone feels like they can bring their selves to work. I know that when I started out, there wasn't many people that looked like me or had similar lived experiences, but that has changed over the last couple of years, and it has made a world of difference to me at work. It's been incredible having Eteroa and other Māori and Pacifica women has really inspired me even more to kind of be part of these organisations and also look to our younger generations as well. I know that in terms of the new way of the world and in the next kind of 10 to 20 years, automation is going to be a really big thing. We're already starting to see this come into place. So thinking about what can we do now to support women and also our next generation to be able to take up more roles in technology, and whether that's through education or going to where they are into the communities and teaching about tech and all the opportunities, I think would be really great.
Yeah, I think very much related to some of the stuff that both of you are talking about is, for me, I feel like small actions really add up. And even if it affects just a small group of people around you and you can take like positive change, that's still a positive change for the people that you interact with on a day-to-day basis. And you really can have a role in making a safe and inclusive environment for women to interact with at work, at home, at whatever setting you're in. You can do that. You can have real impact. You can listen and you can kind of understand what their stories are. And I think, as a tech leader, I've got a great team that are all over the world, and it's nice to be able to take time to learn from them and grow from them and help them educate each other and me about their stories and their backgrounds and what's interesting to them. And I think that in itself creates an inclusive space because we enable each other to have a voice. And that might be in that situation within a team of 9 people, 10 people. But you can do that at a larger scale as well. But I think all those things add up over time and create an environment where it's safe and it's inclusive. So it's really what I encourage people to do. Yeah.
How can we ensure that the voices and experiences of women from diverse backgrounds, including those who are marginalized or underrepresented, are heard and taken into account?
Yeah, this is a hard-hitting question.
Yeah. Right.
So I'm going to think about the individual. So we all need to take accountability and be responsible for our own actions and what we throw out into the world. So be aware of how you are being an ally, and are you actually doing that in your behavior, not just saying I'm an ally. How can you make a safe space? How can you make room for the right conversations? How can you amplify the messages that other people from those communities are sending out there into the world? So as a people leader, one thing that I remember seeing at Xero is one of the members of our team created a PowerPoint presentation to educate the rest of the team about Black History Month, which was fantastic. A lot of people from Australia and New Zealand and the team didn't know much about that. It's more in the US and the UK. So seeing that pack be shared, and she presented it and educated everyone, which is awesome. And just seeing that and going, oh, okay, so we can share this with the whole ecosystem team. So it went from being something that was obviously checking with her that she was comfortable with at first, but it went from being, she wanted to share with her team of 9 or 10 people to, okay, here's an opportunity to encourage her and support the amplification of this message. So we have the ability to do that as peers, but people leaders in particular and managers have the ability to create a bigger impact with that messaging as well. So I think being aware of that, and also as a people leader, be aware of your own biases that you might have that might have just been bred into you from a system that you're not even aware of. So I think doing some reflection, thinking about that, and make sure that you are not perpetuating negative talk, negative behaviors.
Love it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think building on what you were saying, I'm a proud Māori woman, and there is only around 4% of Māori and Pacifica in technology in New Zealand. So I think what you were saying around, the education piece, I think, if everyone took that responsibility to educate themselves and learn about the different cultures, no matter where you're from, I think would be really powerful, because I feel like sometimes we spend a lot of time sharing about our culture, and we love to do that because we're proud of who we are and where we come from. But I think sometimes it's really nice when people have taken the initiative to go and learn about it themselves. And then they can I know that some senior leaders that we've worked with have actually taken the time to do that, and that's made the world of difference. They really started to understand and just get like where we were coming from in certain topics and issues within the world and in New Zealand. So that was really great. Also the system. So, inviting us to the table, but like also redesigning what that looks like and how our voices are heard. And then also with, things that we're working on, or technology, we want to be building these things with the community, not for the community. So we want to be doing that collaboratively. And yeah, that's all I really have to say on that part.
Yeah.
I think, you were talking a little bit about how you get invited into a space and redesigning the space. And I think that really ties into the responsibility that's on organizations to be able to foster a sense of belonging for people, making sure that they have time and space to connect with each other, especially minorities, right? And in tech, that's really important. It's key to make sure that people have a way to engage with each other and share their ideas. At Xero, we have the ERGs, which are the groups that people have together where they connect under the different things that bring them together. So we have the Women of Xero, we have Māori Pacifica, we have Indigenous groups, and the Rainbow group as well. And that means that people who connect with those identities are able to see each other, they have visibility with each other, and that in turn builds visibility into the rest of the organization. And so I think, businesses do need to make sure that they are doing what they can to give the people that are underrepresented a space and make sure they are visible as well within that space.
I feel like those ERGs, employee resource groups, which are self-driven but supported by the organisation at Xero, have made a really big difference. To me, I haven't worked in an organisation that really had set those up and had them running the way that Xero does. And I think I feel the work that they do is really powerful, and the inclusive space that they create as well. So you need a space that can create those, and then they create. It's a little bit kind of like bit meta, but, and then they create further spaces for people to join. And you don't have to, be a woman at Xero to go to the Woman at Xero group, and you don't have to be part of the Brain Duo community as such to be joining in those activities and being an ally. So that has, felt and provide an ability for people who aren't part of those groups or those minorities to join in and be active.
Why do you think it is important for women to be champions of other women that belong to these communities, and what would this look like?
Yeah, I think, to me, or like when I think about that question, it's about how on a peer level you support each other.
I don't.
And for me, what that looks like is celebrating each other's successes. It is not a competition. You want to support each other.
Yeah.
You want to hype them up when they should be hyped up. You should absolutely be celebrating the successes of those around you, regardless of what your own goals are. And sometimes you might see that they need feedback. Take the time to help them.
Yeah.
You'd want that, right? So make space, make the time to be able to do that. Encourage them. Be there to just support and connect with one another. There's this topic around like social capital. How can you build social capital? Look for people that are connected to the same values and how you can find a common ground. You can always find common ground with someone. And especially when you're talking about supporting people from marginalized communities, there is a way to connect with them and there is a way to help them. And championing them as a peer is really important. It's not about the position or seniority level or anything like that. That's kind of how I view it.
I like that.
Yeah, I like that. I'm in the same vein as well. I think Madeleine Albright, former US Secretary of State, said there's a special place in hell for women that don't help other women. I think that is very true. Sounds like a really hardcore sentence, and she's pretty hardcore, so she owns that. But I think that's true. I think providing feedback, helping each other, helping to find opportunities. So if you're a people leader or manager, helping to find opportunities for people in your team, making them visible, showing their best work, helping them do their best work, being a sponsor. Being a sponsor essentially means that you advocate for that person when they are not in the room. So you don't have to be someone's people leader to do that. You can be their friend and their peer as well. So it means, you're looking for opportunities, you're looking for angles for them, you're looking at ways to help them, you're looking at ways to raise their profile when they're not in the room, because a lot of things happen when you're not in the room.
Yeah, I don't.
So I think those are really important. Helping people be visible, which sometimes can be hard if you're any kind of minority in any kind of environment, is the tendency to kind of not want to be upfront necessarily. So we can all help each other push each other forward.
Love it. Yeah.
I think leadership isn't just a title, it's actually a behaviour, and it doesn't matter where you sit within the organisation. You can be a leader, you can make change, and sometimes that might be hard, but I think it doesn't matter where you sit, you can really influence those around you as well. So you might not be in the senior leadership team, but it doesn't matter where you are in the organisation, you can make change.
Yeah, right.
And also, for me anyway, is that I want to make sure that I do as much as I can in the roles that I have for the next generation and for anyone else that's coming through technology. And one of my favourite books is a book called Wayfinding Leadership, and it's written by Dr. Shelley Spiller, Hotorua Kerr, and John Panaho. And this talks about success is succession. So, if I do everything I can for others and put that ladder down and bring others up, then that means to me I have been successful. And that's one of my favourite quotes from that book, which really resonates.
Love that.
Say it again.
Stealing that.
Say it again. Say it again. Say it again.
Success is succession. It's quite hard to say, actually.
Very, very powerful.
Love it. Women's representation in leadership positions remains low in many sectors, including politics and businesses, especially in tech. How can we encourage more women to enter in these fields and ensure that their voices are heard? That's a good one. Are heard. What are your thoughts, fam?
I'll pick up a particular part of that. So I just want to pick up on the tech industry in particular. So this is a belief of mine, is that it's not always helpful for people to think that the only way into a technology industry leadership role is by having a STEM degree. I think the kind of obsession with pushing everyone, boys and girls, into STEM education is not particularly helpful. Choose the path that's right for you. You're better to you do you than trying to shoehorn yourself into something that you might not be interested in or doesn't jazz you, doesn't get you up in the morning. So a lot of people, we see a lot of people in senior roles don't have STEM degrees. So don't discount yourself or filter yourself out because you don't have that, or filter yourself out of the industry entirely. That would be a real mistake. So the room, every room, decision room, collaboration room, design room, whatever it might be, needs diverse voices. So that's not just the obvious diversity about how we look, but it's also about your experiences and your education. So we don't want everyone to walk into a room and everyone be a coder, because that's not diversity of thought. If everyone's gone to the same universities and done the same coding courses, it's not going to provide the diversity that you want in the room to solve problems well. So technology as a sector and leadership roles need marketers and service designers and researchers and lawyers and accountants. Needs all of those people and all of those roles or functions. They can all lead to senior leadership in any industry, but also in tech. So, bring what you have, do what you can, and bring your unique gifts.
So some of the things I think are important are things like flexible working. We've seen a real increase in flexible working policies over the last few years, which I think has been awesome. The other thing is parental leave policies. Xero has an incredible parental leave policy, which really helps to be able to take that time out if you choose to have a family. The other thing is support when you actually come back to work, and more policies and support around that. I think is really great. The other thing is the increase in part-time work. There's not many part-time roles out there, but I think it's something that we could really look to work on, and how you could do job sharing as well. Recently, I've seen in the media around women in senior leadership positions who are actually leaving their roles, and they've had incredible careers. But I think that we need to really change the way that the media portrays some of those articles and conversations, because it seems to be in more of a negative light. And I feel like even women in politics, how they're portrayed in the media needs to change. The narrative can be very different compared to men who are in politics. So if I feel like if younger people and our next generations are seeing that, I just think that puts women in those senior leadership positions in a different light, which I don't think is great. So,
nice.
Yeah, totally. The conversation around Jacinda Ardern, New Zealand's Prime Minister, resigning she resigns after 5.5 years of some of the hardest times to be leadership of, with the terrorism crisis and Christchurch and the pandemic and et cetera, et cetera. And so she resigns, and the narrative is she can't hack it, whereas the previous political leader of the opposition 6 years before that, when he pulls out of politics, he has retired from politics to go play golf or something. You're like, how is this narrative completely different? One is resigning because they can't hack of it, and the other one is resigning because it's time and they've earned it. What happened? How did we get to this?
I doubt. That's true.
Yeah, I think for me, a lot of the, like, when women can't access those senior leadership positions, I think my perspective on it is that it's to do with the barriers that are put up, and often from a really young age. And, we have to take a step back and think about how we're educating our young kids, our young adults, as they're growing up and thinking about what shapes them. When people are born and children, they do not have biases. They learn those things from the environments that they're in, from the experiences that they have, from the narratives they are told. And unfortunately, as they get older, those become more embedded in who they are, right? And as you see women getting to the point where they might want to move into leadership positions, the people around them do put up barriers, whether they realize it or not. And so I think there is a lot of power in investing in educating people from a really young age, helping them understand unconscious bias, helping them understand the wage gaps that women experience and all the other issues that come along with that. I think, related to that, a lot of it has to do with social media as well. Like, it's such a pervasive thing in our day-to-day lives, and there can be a lot of positivity out of that, but there's also a lot of negativity. And when you look at how kids interact with social media, and their brains are evolving and they're just really learning who they are as a person and the things that they want to believe and the ideas that they nurture, unfortunately, sometimes they do get in contact with people in those spaces who don't support creating the safe and encouraging environments that we need to have women be able to move into those senior leadership roles, to have minorities feel like they can contribute in an equal way in their spaces that they operate in, to have them hold leadership positions as well. So I think it really, for me, starts from that young age and the changes we can make earlier on. Yeah.
Love it. Yeah. All right, so we have come to the end of this beautiful talanoa or discussion today. But before we actually end off, we're going to go around the room and give you the opportunities to sow a seed to our beautiful sisters who are watching today. I know they would love to hear your last remarks, but also just some words of encouragement for them as they continue their journey. So we'll start with you, Amy, and we'll go around the room, please.
Okay. I have a couple. So I think just dream big, and then dream bigger than that, and then a bit bigger than that. And also, reach out to those people in your networks, or if you have something you want to learn about, and you don't know them, just take the time and reach out. Most people are really willing to, meet with you and have that conversation. And sometimes I find people think that, that person's, really popular. Lots of people will be reaching out, but nobody actually reaches out. So just take that chance and message that person, whether it's on LinkedIn, send them an email. That would be my recommendation. And then the last thing is find your personal board of directors. Even before coming into this conversation today, I have people that I phone up and call and ask for advice and all those types of things. So it's usually around, 5 to 10 people, but doesn't have to be that much. Just people that, have your best interests at heart, want to see you succeed, can give you really honest feedback as well. And just, people that are in your corner and you can kind of call on them when you need to. That would be my advice.
Yeah, somewhat in the same vein, be brave and ambitious and own being ambitious. Sometimes people feel embarrassed to say that they are to themselves, let alone to the world. So be ambitious and own it, and don't be afraid of labeling yourself that way and identifying yourself as that kind of person. Back yourself and push yourself forward and do the things that are scary and apply for the job you're not qualified for. Just do it, apply. If you're not the right person, then you won't necessarily, if it's not a good fit, you won't necessarily get the role anyway. But you'll get learnings out of the process of going through that journey. So often people filter themselves out way too early. And for me, usually how I knew that it was the right role that I was going to next was because I was petrified about going into the role and how I was going to actually be able to do it. And that's how I knew I was challenging myself enough, because I was putting myself well outside my comfort zone each time for quite a few years. So, get comfortable with making yourself a little bit uncomfortable, and I'd say be focused and intentional. Do well and be visible while you're doing it. To that end, success is the best revenge. So this is being a role model and putting yourself into leadership positions, whether it's leadership mindset or a leadership role. This is the way that we help each other and that we move everything forward, not just for yourself individually. Yeah. So, play your part and succeed, because we'll succeed with you.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I think, you spoke about being brave, and for me, one of the words that came to mind was courage. And sometimes you are forging a new path, and that can be really scary. And being able to embrace that challenge and be courageous and step into something that's new and different and maybe difficult at times, but knowing that you'll work through it and you'll learn, grow, or anything really from that experience. So I think, courage is the first thing that came to mind. The other thing, and I wanted to end on actually, was the word reflection. I think for me, reflection is making time to think about how you live in the world and the things that you contribute to the world, and learn from the words of others, the experience of others. And that might be positive situations you've been in, or it might be difficult situations you've been in as well. And really thinking about how you use those past experiences to have a growth mindset and learn and develop and follow the dreams that you have. I think for me, reflection is really about creating time to find clarity. And when you find clarity, you can achieve anything. So that's what I'm going to end on.
Oh, bless. Thank you to all our viewers who are watching today. And the best thing here is this isn't the end of it. You too can make a change with empowering more of our wahine toa and women, especially in this industry in tech. So you know what? While we're having this discussion and you're off doing your own thing, think about what you can do in your everyday life to make that change. Wow, that comes to the end of today's amazing discussion. I'm your host, Eteroa Lafaele. Hope to see you same time or same place. Ka kite anō, and I'll see you later. Bye!